Okay, let's see this one. Camera. So, well, let's see if we can fix that. Oh, where's the? That's probably the other way around here. So let's see these bullshitters, what they're going to say. I have no idea what they're going to say, but let's have a look. In regards to it, I think one of them is that stinking, filthy bullshitter who is now a Mohammedan, a formerly so-called Christian. He was like totally
Now, at this point, I want
bullshitting.
to turn to the topic of Christian
So
Zionism.
the
And again,
guy on the top left blocking theology is a stinking, filthy bullshitter who is, as far as I know, a Mohammedan now, saying that the only proof of the Trinity is 1 John 5:7, and it shouldn't be there and all that. I've done the research on that. It should be there. I don't really care either way in regards of its, because it doesn't change anything. It's just a one-liner, and he thinks it takes out the Trinity when you have 4 chapters of John, chapter 14, 15, 16, and 17, explaining the Trinity with a twist. Give me a break with the bullshit. This Mohammedan stinking bullshitter. But anyway, let's see what we have here. Christian Zionism, a major oxymoron. Oh, really? Let's see what they, I don't know how much I can handle in regards to these bullshitters, but we'll see,
there will be a bit of repetition from our last podcast. So again, these two words, Christian Zionist, they should never be in opposition to each other. Right? This is oxymoronic. It's jumbo shrimp. It's a four-sided triangle. Now, first of all, we know that Theodor Herzl himself met with Pope Pius X in 1904 and asked for the Pope's support for Zionism. And the Pope said, absolutely not. That was in 2000.
So, of course, the Pope is the Antichrist, and of course, he has nothing to do with real Christians, right? Yeah.
That was in 1904. So, part and parcel to the Zionist project, from a Jewish religious standpoint, is the construction of the third temple on the so-called Temple Mount in Jerusalem. Of course, the first temple was built by Solomon in 1000 BCE, was destroyed by Babylonians in 586 under Nebuchadnezzar. The second temple was built around 515 BCE and destroyed in 70 by the Romans under General Titus. And now Jewish Zionists want to build a third temple. Now, traditionally, the Jews for the last 2,000 years have believed that when the Messiah comes, he will build the third temple, right? The Beit HaMikdash, Beit HaMaqdis. The difference between the Zionist Orthodox...
By the way, there's actually two future temples. There's not only one, there's actually two. That'll be the next one here, and then there will be a next one after that. So, when the Messiah returns. But anyway, of course, you have the time of the Jews, and they will have that time as well after the Gentile tribulation. Then the Jews have their last go as well. And then Jesus returns. Or Yeshua. But anyway.
And the Haredi Orthodox is that the Zionists want to take the initial steps to hasten the coming of the Messiah, which includes seizing the land and purifying the land, as we said. The Haredi believe that they must wait patiently for the Messiah before doing anything. Okay, so the construction of the third temple is made...
Yeah, but still a small group of Jews, rejecting in regards of Israel. But the thing is, where do you think those Jews will go to when things begins to boil, Where do you think they will flee to, Maybe Israel, Yeah.
Mainstream traditional Judaism. The difference is the circumstance under which the temple will be rebuilt. So there was a story of a rabbi. He actually lived.
So I guess both of these guys are Mohammedans, and the guy on the top is says he's a former Christian. I can't remember what kind of Christian that would be, but was attacking the Trinity, which, in regards of 1 John 5:7, and saying there was nothing else in regards to the Trinity. Oh, really? So we don't have any chapters on it, like John chapter 14, 15, 16, and 17, that you can just go read and, reread and reread. If you kind of don't understand it in the beginning, you just reread it, take it slowly and all that. But it is there. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and the children of Jehovah. That's the twist that many forget. But yeah, it's absolutely there. And you think that one line in the New Testament, removing one line, changes the doctrine of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, and the children of Jehovah? You gotta be, it's like what brain dead person would ever proclaim such a thing, you know? Maybe someone who converted to Mohammedanism, yeah, it's like knowing the truth and then turning to a turd, you know. Although I guess I don't know what kind of Mohammed or what kind of so-called Christian he was. Can't remember if he, what kind of. But anyway, you can always go listening to him. I'm sure he tells it somewhere and all that, but hard to remember everything, right?
Zionist, he lived in Israel. And then after a few years, he realized that, we're oppressing these people in a major way. And then he turned anti-Zionist. And the thought that came to him was that, that David has become Goliath, that Bnei Israel has become the Pharaoh, right? At least the original Pharaoh did not kill the women and girls, right? This new Pharaoh slaughters indiscriminately. So if Israel is a new Pharaoh,
it's like more bullshit in regard. All the Jews are evil, wicked people, right, and this and that. Well, it's their homeland, okay? It's just we are oppressing these people. Well, why do you think the Jews have these things and have walls around and all that? You just think it's for fun, Is it because that these Mohammedans, these Philistinians are so peaceful that the Jews need to have these, these walls around? Or maybe there's a reason for it, like boom, boom, boom things, like things of that, or stabbings and all that. Maybe there's a reason why the Jews actually have these things, Like maybe just maybe there is a reason for it, And I understand that the Jews are not spotless saints and all that. But yeah, it is their homeland,
Then Christian Zionists are the new Korah and Haman, Harun and Haman. That is to say, the money and military that supports the Pharaoh. Now, one of the largest and most influential Christian Zionist organizations in the world is called CUFI, Christians United for Israel, led by a loudmouth preacher from Texas named John Hagee. Why is it blasphemous? Right? Why is CUFI kufr? Well, before I get to that, here's an interesting piece of trivia. Up until a few years ago, the executive director of CUFI was a man named David Brog, who was the cousin of former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak. Very interesting. The executive director of Christians United for Israel was Jewish, the cousin of the Israeli Prime Minister. And you can't make this stuff up.
Oh,
so in the New Testament,
apparently CUFI is with a C, C-U-F-I, Christians United for Israel. They have a web page as well. And yeah, there's this guy. As like pray for peace of Jerusalem, and those who love you enjoy tranquility. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Okay, so they have a website, and I guess this is the guy stand with Israel against the tyrants of Tehran. I guess maybe let's see here. 1 minute.
Since October 7th, members of Christians United.
That's John Hagee, I guess. So anyway, let's continue with
Jesus himself, of course, is the new temple. Now, I don't believe this. I don't believe that Isa alayhi salam is the new.
No, because you believe in a fake version of Jesus. And of course, Jesus said he is more than a temple. Of course, the Jews that want salvation still needs to go to Jesus, But that is not to say that that land is Philistinian, okay? That land is Jewish homeland. And when the Jews are coming home, like, you think we are worshiping a weak God who couldn't keep the Jews out of his land if he didn't want them there? Of course not. So if the Jews are in the homeland again, God is allowing it. So maybe you shouldn't be against that,
Temple. But this is what the New Testament teaches. This is what Christians are supposed to believe, given their canon of Scripture. And of course, there are problems with their canon, no doubt. But I want the audience to see what I'm doing here. I'm taking the Christian Scriptures as they are and examining them vis-a-vis Zionism.
It's like Catechism of the Catholic Church. Who cares about what the Roman papers are saying in regards of things, okay? But yeah, and in regards of the Pope and all that, who cares about what the Pope is saying in regards of it? I don't care about the Pope. He's the Antichrist.
Zionism, because that the Christian Scripture.
It's like here, Kai Logos, see here. Sari geneto kai iskinosen in pinui or something like that. I'm not so good at regards of Greek and all that. Let's see here. And the word became flesh, and and dwelt among us. Yep. Well, yeah, he did. And of course, that word is God. So it's interesting how the Mohammedans will say, "How can you quote from our bullshit Bible?" Well, say bullshit. Okay, how can you quote from the Quran if you don't know, if you're not a Mohammedan? It's like, oh yeah. Why? How could I actually use your bullshit book and quote from it to show you something, right? I'm just not allowed to do that. But of course, you guys are allowed to use the New Testament without any. There's like that. I'm so sick and tired of the Mohammedan bullshitters all around. It's like trying to show them something in regards, oh, but why are you using the Quran if you're not a Mohammedan? Yeah, maybe because I'm showing it what it says here and trying to, show you a point, right? But anyway, these bullshitters are Satanists. They're wicked, evil Satanists, and this is just how it is. Now, of course, Mohammedan is just one group of Satanists out there. The Roman papists are another. And you have the Hindus and the Buddhists and the rest of the bullshitters out there, the atheists and all that. But yeah, but let's just be frank, right? Let's be direct and just say it how it is. And yeah, there's a lot of Satanists out there. That's just how it is. And Mohammedans are, a good bunch of them,
Scriptures, that's their hujjah, that's their proof text. So the Quran says, "Fa'tu bi kitabikum in kuntum sadiqin." Bring your book, bring your scripture if you speak the truth. Right? Does Zionism hold up to scrutiny when we?
But that in regards of interesting, right? Bring your book, and yet they will say, well, this has been corrupted, and we don't believe in that, and that has been corrupted, and this is not, and we can't accept that, and this and that, right? When they say, oh, the New Testament, Jesus never says he's God and all that, you just find the thing and all that, you give it to oh, we don't believe in that, that's corrupted, and this and that. Oh, that's how it works, right? So the New Testament, Jesus never claims to be God, because wherever he actually does that, well, it must be corrupted. What kind of, yes. So we start out saying that the Bible or the New Testament never says that that Jesus is God, that he never says and claims himself to be God. And then you bring it forward and then, oh, but that, that part is just corrupted, like going to one bullshit to another bullshit and all that, it's evil, it's stinking filthy, it's dishonest. And of course, these people are the children of the devil.
Examine the plain and obvious meanings of the Christian scriptures as they are. If not, then Christians must abandon their Zionism if they want to remain true to their scriptures.
So I do wonder, why would a Christian be a Zionist? What is a Zionist? Someone who accepts, or what do you call it? Someone who understands that this land is actually Jewish land and support the Jews to that claim, and that Jerusalem is the capital of the Jewish people, or the Israelis. So that's a Zionist, because Jerusalem, Zion is just another word for Jerusalem. So when Mohammedans are saying, oh, the children of Zion is trying to take Jerusalem from us, they are literally actually saying that the children of Jerusalem is trying to take Jerusalem from us. I guess they don't know what Zion is actually. Zion or Zion. Zion is another word for Jerusalem, Oh, it's like, oh, give me a break with the nonsense, It just keeps on going with the bullshit.
The Gospel of John, of course, begins with a prologue, the hymn to the Logos, right? The beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God.
The Word was God. Oh, my. Right? Oh, does John really say that? The Apostle John? Does he say that the Word was with God and the Word was God? My. But you're going to throw that out as a Mohammedan, right? Because you're following a bullshitter 600 years after the event, who made up a false version of Jesus, just labeled this fake version, as Jesus, 600 years come lately, 600 years. Oh, yeah, you're going to follow that bullshitter, right?
God, and the Word became flesh and dwelt amongst us.
Oh, and so let's see here. The Word that was with God and was God became flesh and walked amongst us. So that means that Word that walks amongst us was, God in the flesh. Oh, my.
I quote the original languages here because this is the key to understanding. I mean, We say that Arabic is miftahul ulum.
Yeah, but you clearly don't understand what the Apostle John, one of the apostles, is saying, right? You reject that because you reject the first century sources in regards to who Jesus really is. And you run with 600 years come lately, known as Muhammad,
Arabic is the key to the sciences.
Yeah.
When sacred language is lost, the integrity of the religion weakens. Okay, today there are Christian pastors who don't know a lick of Greek or Hebrew or Latin. So that's a big problem.
So what you just said in English, does that, Christians don't believe that. They don't understand that Jesus is God in the flesh. And of course, you bullshitters don't believe that. You reject that because you're the devil's children, children of the devil, stinking wolves, You don't even have sheep clothing on,
Right? John 1, kai halagas sarx egenata kai eskenosen and humin. So literally, the word became flesh.
So understanding the Greek here is just giving us much like it just doesn't, we can't understand it in English apparently, right? And the word became flesh and dwelt among us. Yeah. So the word that was with God and was God that came into the world and became flesh in the Virgin. If the word was God and was with God, by the way, that sounds like, Father and Son. And we have the Holy Spirit making Mary pregnant. That sounds like the Trinity right there. It's just terrible, right? It's just so terrible, But anyway, how many do you have? You have the Word. The Word was with God. So you have the Word and you have God, right? And the Word was God. Oh, wait a minute. What is going on here? Well, because you have a plural singular God. And the Word was sent by the Father, by the Holy Spirit, making Mary pregnant. And there you go. The Word became flesh, the Son. Oh, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit right there. Isn't it just interesting? But I guess we need to be able to read Greek, to understand things, right? Anyway, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. Yeah. God in the flesh. Yeah, walking amongst his own people. And God is Jewish. He's a Jew. Yeah, there you go. Anyway, but of course they will reject this. These Mohammedans will, they take the text, right? But they don't believe it, And these Dr. Ali, whatever, And this other former so-called Christian, and I can't remember what part, if he was from one line or the other or whatever. He might just have been a Roman papist, who knows. And of course, that's Satanism as well. But anyway, believing in a cookie Jesus. But I don't know. I can't remember.
Himself, tabernacled himself.
I'd put the translation tabernacle because it really brings out the...
Also, he tabernacled. Oh, yeah, that makes a huge difference in regards to Jesus being God, right? But yeah, he tabernacled. And of course, in regards to, he probably was born on the festival of Sukkot, where you build a sukkah. You build sukkahs, and for 7 days you pretty much sleep in sukkahs or stay in sukkahs. I guess you don't need to totally sleep in them, but at least you are in those sukkahs and all that and doing things. So and Jesus might very well, or Yeshua might very well have been born at the beginning of Sukkot, ending with the last great day being circumcised. Because you have 7 days of, and then you have the last great day, which is the 8th. So anyway,
the Jewish context, right. Powerfully.
Yeah. That is literally what it says, and
so what this was literally what it said. Okay, so what does that change? What is your point? What is your bullshit point? Because, you just pretty much proclaim that Jesus is God, right? Because you're reading from John, who testified, and was one of the 12 apostles. Of course, if you want to deny that and run with someone coming 600 years after the event, why would anyone take you seriously, You're just a satanic bullshitter, a wolves without sheep clothing. Jesus didn't even warn us about you guys because you are stinking, filthy, easy to spot. Now, Jesus warned us about wolves in sheep clothing, something that proclaims itself Christian and looks Christian on the outer surface, but is not. But you stinking, filthy Mohammedans are just stinking wolves, okay? Following a stinking false prophet, Very clear as the day, anyway.
And dwelt among, you would never get that from an English translation. I mean, you miss so much of what's being said there. In other words, what the author is saying here is...
So let's see. Okay, let's see. What did the English translation miss that Jesus is God? Didn't it proclaim that Jesus is God? Maybe you guys just can't read English, or something like that, or just have you have the spirit of error in you. Apparently, I've already used 90 gigabyte of data.
That Jesus is the new temple, the new Mishkan that houses the Shekhinah, the presence of God. Right, destroy this temple and raise it up in 3 days.
Just using the word. You gotta be kidding me, guys. Oh my. Anyway, whatever. These bullshitters.
It took 46 years to build this temple. How are we going to raise it up in 3 days? And then John says, but he spoke of the temple of his body. So this is very, very clear that Jesus is the new temple. And so for Christians to support the construction of a third temple in Jerusalem is essential.
Well, as Christians, we support the claim that the land in regards of Israel is Israel, and the Israelis have that, this is their land. This is what, as a Zionist, that's what I support, because it's the truth that that Israel is the Jewish homeland. Like you can talk about all the things in regards to all this temple and blah 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 and all that. No. Jerusalem is the capital of Israel, and this is the Jewish homeland. Now we call them Jews today and all that, but yeah, Israel is the Jewish homeland. It's kind of because that was the main group of Israelis that kind of survived and went forward. But anyway, yeah. So this is, I'm a Zionist because, this is, of course, when I was in the so-called truth movement, I was actually against the Jews, But then you find out, wait a minute, that's actually a biblical aspect to this. And there's actually a lot of things that the so-called truth movement doesn't tell us, So I'm a Zionist now. Absolutely. This is, the Jews wouldn't be in their land if Jehovah did not want them there. And lo and behold, the Jews are there from all over the world. And you're going to say that that this is not their land? Like, what other rubbish, What other satanic bullshit, So, in regards to the third temple and all that, of course, the Jews have some issues for sure, in regards to things, rejecting the Messiah and all that. But we do have 40,000 Israeli Jews who are now Christians. And it's a growing number. And of course, the 144,000 Israelis will come up at some point. So standing up for the truth and all that. So we just know from the end games that there will, that you have so many prophecies, So it is expected that the Jews at some point would be home, would come home again, And here they are. And it might be like a slap to actually pay attention, because now the leaves of the tree are kind of soft, in regards of the the fig trees leaves are kind of what do you call it? Soft, So now they are home again and still going strong, and you want to be against that? Why would you be against that? Why would anyone be against the Jews returning to their homeland? Huh? Oh, well, maybe if you're a satanic bullshitter,
Actually, to deny the New Testament Jesus, because Jesus replaces the temple according to the New Testament. The New Testament Jesus.
So we deny Jesus? Well, I guess he's talking about that, supporting the Jewish temple and all that. Well, as a Zionist myself, I'm just focused that this is Jewish land, Okay, this is Jerusalem as the capital of the Jews, of course, of Israel. And of course, Israel is, the land that they have is Jewish land. And actually, it's just a part of Israel, But anyway, and of course, prophecies about them coming back it is expected that they would come back at some point. So, and here they are, interestingly enough, isn't it? Oh, you have like three things, like the Trinity, right? In the eyes, right? 1, 2, 3. Anyway, it's like 1, 2, and 3. Like anyway, yeah. Anyway, so and of course the Mohammedans will do everything and anything to try to corrupt any sanity, Um, so of course, but yeah, there will be 2 temples in the future. There'll be the next temple, and there will be the temple that for the 1,000-year reign and all that. So, but yeah, of course, we have prophecies in regards of a temple being in the being in the future. So for the end time.
Never utters a single word about a third temple.
But he just spoke in great detail.
Oh, really? Well, there are some prophetic things in regards to the future when something is standing where it shouldn't stand in the temple. Yeah. Anyway, so, and of course, we also know from scriptures we have this whole thing in regards of that would be the fourth, pretty much, temple for the 1,000-year reign and all that, in regards of descriptions in regards to that. The Jews knows about that, and apparently are talking about if they should do it like that, or of course it won't be like that. But anyway, it's interesting they kind of know that there's kind of these descriptions about a temple, which clearly hasn't been there in the past. This is clearly a future prophecy of a temple in the future, and things of. But anyway, that's in Ezekiel, the end of Ezekiel. You can read about that, and you can also find things on the internet where they have tried to make this depiction of it that is explained in Ezekiel. But anyway, let's go forward.
Like in Mark 13, of the destruction of the Jewish temple in Jerusalem,
Right.
AD 70 rather. It's there in Matthew 24 and Luke 21. And this is a prophecy that it will be destroyed by the Romans. So and he doesn't condemn it. This is the end of the temple.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. He emphatically.
Yeah, so there's nothing, right, in regards of prophetical things about other temples in the future. Anyway, if you want to read about, the Ezekiel temple and all that, well, the temple in regards of Ezekiel, you can read that in the last part of, I think it's around chapter 38 or something like that. It begins to explain it. So, and of course, then we also know that there will be a temple in regards of being defiled in the future as well. So, yeah, that's at least 2 temples, as far as I can see, Like when people say, oh, we don't know in regards of if there will be a temple. Absolutely no, there will be a temple, and actually there will be 2. But anyway, in the future. So if you're going to use on any arguments that there's nothing in regards of future temples and all that, then of course, blah, as it goes,
Predicts the destruction of the second temple. Never talks about third temple. So now then we have Zionist Jews rebelling against God's decree of exile, and we have Zionist Christians rebelling against Jesus' pronouncement that he is the new temple. I actually call this the double kufr theology of Judeo-Christian Zionism.
No, when Jesus was talking about the temple, of course, he was talking about himself. As he, did so many times, he was talking in picture language, and which apparently a lot of people can't figure out either, So when he's talking about that he will rebuild the temple in 3 days, yeah, he was talking about himself. But, of course, there's still a physical temple, of course. So, yeah, anyway.
For Jews to end the exile and break the 3 oaths is kufr, according to traditional Judaism. That's one kufr. That's one disbelief. For Christians to support the construction
of try that again.
Zionism. For Jews to end the exile and break the 3 oaths is kufr, according to traditional Judaism. That's one kufr. That's one disbelief.
Yeah, maybe that's some bullshit traditions, Maybe they have some bullshit traditions that is not biblical. You think the Jews might have some traditions that are not biblical? Oh, yeah. Oh, like that. The tribe goes through the mother and not the father. Well, biblically, it goes through the father, okay? So, of course, another tradition of rubbish that is not biblical. So, Anyway, so anyway, let's see what we have further.
For Christians to support the construction of the third temple when Jesus is the new temple is kufr according to traditional Christianity.
Oh, give me a break with the bullshit, Give me a break with the bullshit. Now, of course, we also know from past Christians long back that there would be another temple. And in regards to that, also like, who's going to build that temple, Because the Christians are probably not going to build the temple, the Mohammedans wasn't there, I think, at that point. And other pagans wouldn't probably build the temple either. So, of course, your Jews that is now not in the land would need to return at some point and build it, of course. That kind of makes sense, right? But anyway, it's just listening to Mohammedans, you only get stupider,
Kufr theology. And of course, here's a quote from the Catechism of the Catholic Church. We looked at.
Oh yeah, because we just let's go to Roman Catholicism, right?
This last time as well. Christ is the true temple of God, the place where His glory dwells. This is what every Christian used to believe. Of course, here is Pastor John Hagee, founder and chairman of CUFI.
I mean, you say he's loud mouth.
Oh yeah, we have the CUFI thing, and they have a website as well, and they're supporting the Jews in regards to the Jewish homeland, and yeah.
But if you listen to him on YouTube, and I have, he really is loudmouthed. Actually, he really is a very outspoken guy, and he has a sort of bewitching charisma, I think, that he spreads over his followers. Actually,
I mean, he's a master communicator. I mean, the way that he casts a spell over his audience.
Yes,
it's. I mean, you can get a degree in homiletics, right? The art of preaching.
Yes.
Even if there's very little substance to what someone's saying, the way that they say it is quite enticing. Yeah. Okay, so Christian Zionism is a betrayal of the New Testament Jesus. So Zionism is a betrayal of the Old Testament teaching and Zionism.
What are you talking about? It's like, what is this bullshit? Christian Zionism is a betrayal of the New Testament Jesus. Bullshit. Thus, Zionism is a betrayal of the OT teaching and a betrayal of the New Testament teaching. Bullshit. It was like rubbish, absolutely rubbish. Why would it be against Jesus to stand for His people, Give me a break. Anyway, crucifixion was moved by John, from which came forth blood and water. Crucifixion was moved by John. What is that kind of an argument? Crucifixion was moved by John? I guess we'll need to listen to what he has to say in regards to this. 1 John 2:22, who is a liar but he who denies that Jesus is the Christ? This is the Antichrist. Yeah, well, who denies that Jesus is God Almighty in the flesh? Well, the Mohammedans. Who denies that Jesus was executed on a tree? The Mohammedans. And thereby who rejects that Jesus was resurrected from the dead? The Mohammedans. Oh yeah. Anyway. The New Testament advances replacement theology, covenantal supersession. Are you going to promote Roman Catholic bullshit? Genesis 12:3, and I will bless them that bless you and curse him that curses you. Yeah, maybe you guys should try to bless the Jews and not curse them. Maybe that would go a little better for you. Does it seem like that you're cursing yourself when you're cursing the Jews? How does it go in the Middle East again? And the many years in regards of cursing the Jews and all that. How does that go with you, Does that seem like a blessing or a curse that you Mohammedans are getting? Seems like it's kind of getting a lot of curses, Doesn't really go so good for you guys, right? When you curse the Jews. I see, there's neither Jew nor Greek, there's neither bond nor free, there's neither male nor female, for you are all one in Christ. Well, you still have it to take things in context, Jesus, if you belong to Christ, then you are Abraham's seeds and heirs to the promise. Yeah, but you don't take, you have the woman of Israel, and then you have the Gentile woman as well. So, and of course, many of the Christians are of the Gentile woman, and then you have, the woman who is married to God and also had a child. You can see that in Yeshayahu or Isaiah. That's a good question. What chapter is that? Oh, my brain is not. I need some coffee to apparently. But anyway, it's just it's like trying everything they can to just make, oh, you can't support the Jews, So we should be against the Jews? Oh, should be against the Jews? Like the rest of you bullshitters who want to kill them and butcher them and slaughter them and all that. Yeah, we should be against the Jews, huh? No, not going to happen. Anyway, you also see many Mohammedans in the truth movement and all that are pushing Jew hatred. And of course, in the truth movement, there's like this agenda to be against the Jews. And of course, they don't just forget the biblical side of things. But anyway,
His betrayal of the New Testament teaching. And we mentioned this last time as well, that in John's Gospel, the author of the Gospel of John, he moved the day of the crucifixion up one day to the day of the preparation of the Passover. Why? Because this is when the lambs of the temple were being slaughtered. And then we have the Roman centurion impaling the crucified Johannine Jesus, and blood and water gushed forth from his side. And we said, well, what was the significance of that? Well, at that very moment, the lambs were being slaughtered for the Passover in the temple, and the priest would open a side gate and would wash the blood out with water. Blood and water would gush forth from the side of the temple. So we see what John is doing in his gospel. He is depicting Jesus as both sacrificial lamb and temple. Jesus is the new temple. Again, I don't agree with this Christology. Okay. However, if Christians would just follow these teachings,
you don't agree that Jesus got in the flesh, of course, right? Because you're stinking, filthy Satanist, Mohammedan, and the devil just collected all the more, the pagans, the Satanists, together in one movement, so he would have a stronger movement to, So these are just Satanists, stinking, filthy, devilish Satanists. That's what Mohammedans are, and they can be offended and all that, and want to chop your head off and be, It's the religion of fear and bullshit and deception and rubbish and all, And they will try everything to, to slide around things and, try to deconstruct the what do you call no, yeah, to ruin any sanity, and make you slide around.
found in their own books,
Oh.
they would not have any reason to morally, theologically, financially, or militarily support the modern state of Israel. And of course, the world would be a much better place. And then we can talk.
The world would be a much better place if the Jews was not in their homeland. Yeah, because again, the Mohammedans don't want them there, but they are there. And, we of course knew that they would come back at some point. And why be against that? When we know prophetically that they would come back at some point, why would any Christian reading the Bible be against that? Yeah, I don't know. I just, I don't, just, yeah.
Theology, Christology, and the historical and textual problems of the New Testament canon. That's another conversation. Christian Zionism is utter blasphemy, according to the New Testament. So this is what we have to help our Christian friends and neighbors and possibly family members.
How is it's blasphemy? How's this blasphemy? How is it blasphemy to support the Jewish people who was chosen by God long ago, and understanding that this is Jewish homeland, long ago. The Bible is in regards of history, in regards of that piece of land. And when the Mohammedans are like saying, why don't the Jews just move to Germany or the American United Nations or United States, sorry, and get a piece of land? That it's like where is the Bible happening? Is the Bible happening in Germany? Is the Bible happening in the United States, the USA? Or is the Bible actually happening in that very specific area where they are? Where was Solomon's temple? Oh, Jerusalem. Oh, yeah. It's just
To realize. So here's another one here, 1 John 2:22, right? Who is the liar but he who denies that Jesus is the Christ? And then it says, "Hutas est in ha antichristos." This is the Antichrist.
This is the Antichrist. Yeah, well, the Mohammedans have made up their own fake version of Jesus, so of course they are denying him.
The one who denies that Jesus is the Messiah is the Antichrist. Again, just to reiterate, this is the New Testament, not my opinion, not the Quran, not the Hadith. This is the New Testament. Okay.
Oh, so because the Jews are rejecting, or many of the Jews are rejecting that Jesus is the Christ, then so you don't have any other, you don't have any issues, right? You nearly 2 billion or whatever, you always 1.8 billion Mohammedans I usually say, but they want to always push it to 2 billion and all that. Doesn't matter, they're missing the point. But the thing is, they're all Satanists, and they want to blame 16 million Jews, while they have 2 billion bullshitters in regards to Mohammedanism. Oh, see, the Jews, they reject Jesus and all that. Well, we have 40,000 Israeli Jews now that believe in Jesus, so, and it's a growing number. And of course, we know that Israel, or the Jews, have a part to play in the end time. So, yeah. So, kind of, they would come back at some point, and here they are. And, yeah, so anyway, so do you Mohammedans have any issues? Oh, yeah. Rejecting that Jesus is God and the Son of God, and you reject that he died for the Jews at the very, they understand that they executed Jesus on a tree. And then you say, no, they didn't. They just, God just, there was Judas or something, some guy, it wasn't Jesus. Jesus was just snapped up by God. Oh, really? Yeah, okay. You just went totally against the teaching of Jesus and what he was pointing to in regards of him dying for the sins of the world once and for all. So maybe the Mohammedans are just stinking, filthy, evil bullshitters. Okay, that's just how it is.
There's this well-known Palestinian Christian pastor and professor living in Bethlehem in the occupied West Bank. His name is Reverend Dr. Munther Isaac.
And there we go with the occupation again, right? The whole foundation of occupation is false, but.
And he's quoted as saying, they, and by they he means Christian Zionists, the Christian Zionists have turned the Injil, the good news, into our nightmare. Huh. I wonder if Christian Zionists know that every morning at 3:30 in the morning, a Palestinian Muslim unlocks the door of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. Right? His name is Adib Jude.
Who cares?
The key has been in his family for hundreds of years.
So what? So what?
Centuries ago, the Christians entrusted a Muslim family with the keys to the holiest site in all of Christianity. Because they...
not holy for me in regards of, this is a filthy place, If you really want to find the place where Jesus was executed, just go outside the city. There's a free garden and all that. That's probably the place where Jesus was actually executed, not inside the old city, but actually an area outside. And you can go there for free and all that. Anyway.
They knew that the Muslims would be just with them. I wonder how many Christian Zionists actually know that. Okay.
Or maybe it was because the Mohammedans had the upper hand at that point, huh? It might be a thing, right? That the Mohammedans came and conquered the place, and the keys was giving to this Mohammedan. Well, maybe because at that time, that the Mohammedans was around, had conquered the place, maybe that was something to do with it, it's like, yeah, anyway.
According to the clear teachings of the New Testament, the Jews are no longer the chosen people exclusively. Okay, the New Testament advances replacement theology, right? Covenantal supersessionism. So supersessionism is this idea that the Christian church has superseded the nation of Israel as God.
Yeah, well, the Jews are still around and God is still with his wife, And if God want to dance with his wife again, I'm not the one to stand in his way, that's for sure. And the Mohammedans are trying to stand in the way. And if you want to fight with God and all that, well, then you can do that, of course. I wouldn't advise it, but hey, if you want to have more curses against you and ruining your nations and your people more and all that, just continue what you're doing, cursing the Jews and hating them and all that. It seems to go so well for you guys, right?
God's covenant people. Okay. Of course, this is not a total replacement because Jews can still believe in Jesus and must believe in Jesus if they want to remain God's people. That's traditional Christianity. Now, Christian Zionists love to quote this verse, Genesis 12:3. Okay, this is their, we say bread and butter. I don't know if you use that expression then.
I was like, in regards to, I will bless them that bless you and curse him that curses you. Um, let's just look at how the world is. All these Mohammedans that curse Israel and the Jews and all that. How does that go for them? You think they're getting blessings, or do you think they're getting curses? Doesn't seem like it's going so good for them when they curse the Jews, does it? At least I can't see it going very well for them in regards of cursing the Jews. Of course, they continue with it and hating them and all that, but do you think they're getting blessings or curses, in regards to it? I guess we could just see it in practice, really, in regards to the Jews. Are you getting blessings or are you getting curses? Are the Mohammedans getting blessings or cursing when they curse the Jews? It seems like they are getting a lot of curses upon themselves. It seems like that's like a mirror. So when they curse the Jews, it's kind of mirror upon themselves. Yep, that's just what I can see.
Oh, we do.
You do.
I think it came from the UK first, actually, and then you borrowed it in America.
That makes sense, yeah. 12:3. So this is where God says to Abraham, I will bless them that bless you and curse him that curses you. So Christian Zionists take this to mean that they must bless Abraham and his chosen seed, the Israelites. Therefore, if they don't bless and support the modern state of Israel, then God won't bless them. So this is what they say.
Well, again, this land is still Jewish homeland. It's still Israel. If you read the Bible, where's the Bible? In what part of the world is lots of the history in the Bible actually happening? Oh, in Israel. Yeah, in Israel. Yeah. And all those things that are found from Israel they're digging, they're digging nearly every single day. They're digging something new up that verifies the Bible in regards to the Israelis and history of the Bible. I don't, you have to be kind of retarded to be against it. I guess we have lots of retarded people. Like one of the big groups are the Mohammedans, absolutely retarded people who follows a false, fake prophet known as Muhammad, who had sex with a 9-year young girl when he was 54 years old. But that's the perfect example to follow, right? As a Mohammedan. Oh, yeah.
Where are they getting this from? A blasphemy called dispensationalism. This is not biblical. They were hoodwinked. And the history is fascinating, and we'll get into it in a minute, inshallah. Of course, Paul of Tarsus was a supersessionist to his very core, right? So listen to what Paul says in Galatians 3:16 about God's covenant with Abraham in Genesis 12. And Christians, again, are supposed to believe the New Testament writers, not, John Hagee or John Nelson Darby or C.I. Schofield. So this is what Paul says. The promises were spoken to Abraham and to his seed.
Is there any prophecies about the Jews at the end times, Yeah, there is. So come on, take it in context of the reading the whole Bible. Might be a way to do it. To understand that, there actually is prophecies about Israel in the future or in our time, I guess, because now Israel is back on the map. Wow, we actually had a lot of prophecies about the Jews and Israel and all that. But it's like, you had Christians that ended up not taking it literal because they couldn't see, the Jews wouldn't return. How can the Jews return to the Jewish homeland and all that? Of course, you do have Christians in the past that actually understood that the Jews would return and all that at some point. But anyway, we have these prophecies, a lot of prophecies that Christians, proclaimed Christians, didn't take literal, because how can these things be fulfilled? Because the Jews are not there anymore. Well, at least not in regards of as a huge amount. But yeah, maybe because at some point God would bring them back. Maybe, and here they are.
Right, and of course in Christian Zion.
And by the way, historically, being against the Jews is not a good thing, okay? You read the Bible and all that, even when the Jews are straying away from the truth, being against the Jews is just a stupid thing, because it usually don't end good for those who are against the Jewish people, even if the Jews are straying,
Zionists will say, yes, of course, amen. But Paul continues. Scripture does not say, and to seeds, meaning many people, but to your seed, meaning one person who is Christ. So that's Galatians 3:16. In other words, according to Paul, God in Genesis was only referring to Jesus Christ as being Abraham's seed. Only Jesus and the Christians who believe in him are blessed, not the disbelieving Israelites, and certainly not the modern genocidal, blasphemous state of Israel. Not Tel Aviv, that hosts the largest pride parade in the world, 100 miles away from Sodom and Gomorrah, right? And who spitefully used the rainbow as a symbol of their degeneracy and rebellion. Of course, the rainbow was the sign of the covenant that God made with
See, you can find all the things that the Jews are, in rebellion with and all that. But look in your mirror and look at your filthy, stinking religion of the devil in regards to Mohammedanism. But you want to, this my Jews, this my that, and this whatever, Yeah.
humanity in Genesis chapter 9. Not that Israel. So according to Paul, God in Genesis was only referring to Jesus and the Christians who believe in him. This is New Testament.
Oh, maybe you should read, should we get it, in regards of it. After the prophecy of Jesus being executed, there we go. You have right afterwards, in regards to the prophecy about the two women. I'll see if we can find it. Yeshayahu. Here we have Isaiah. Okay. Isaiah, let's see here. 50. Oh, ready? This is Yeshayahu 54. Sing, O barren one, you who did not bear. Break forth into singing and cry aloud, you who have not been in labor. For the children of the deserted one are more than the children of the married woman, said Jehovah. You see, you have a woman who actually had a child. That's Israel. Then you have the Gentile woman who didn't have a child and wasn't married. So, anyway, that's a little in regards to that. There's more in regards of it as well. But yeah. It's just...
Testament. But Paul's not finished. He goes on to say, there is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither bond nor free, there is neither male nor female, you are all one in Christ Jesus. If you belong to Christ, then you are Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise. So that's Galatians 3:28-29. This is called a conditional statement. If you look in the Greek, it says a de humes Christou. A, epsilon iota, is a conditional particle in Greek. It's very clear this is a conditional particle. If you belong to Christ, to Abraham sperma este, then you are Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise. What does it mean to belong?
Well, did you see two women in regards to that prophecy in Yeshayahu? Yeah, that's like two women. There's the woman who is married, and there's the unmarried woman. Anyway, you have different ways to getting the information over to the people and all that. But you can always pick a little here and there and all that to go astray and ruin the truth,
To Christ. It means to believe in Jesus. It's very clear what Paul is saying. So Christians are the new chosen people, according to the New Testament. You're only chosen and blessed if you believe in Jesus. There's another one here. It's not on the slide here, but 1 Peter 2:9. I saw this later. So this is, apparently Peter talking to Christians, but you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession. So he's talking to the Christians.
Yeah, well, when you are in the living God, in regards to the Son and the Father, and they in us by the Holy Spirit, you pass from death to everlasting life, So does that mean that God is finished with the Jews? No. You have lots of prophecies, end-time prophecies, in regards to the Jews or in regards of Israel. Are you going to reject all these prophecies? Huh?
And here, 1 Thessalonians 2:14 and 15. Paul is writing to his Christian congregation in Thessalonica. This was in the mid-50s, in the first century. For you, brothers and sisters, became imitators of God's churches in Judea, which are in Christ Jesus. You suffered from your own people the same things those churches suffered from the Jews, who killed both the Lord Jesus and the prophets and drove us out and displease God and oppose all men. So that is Paul of Tarsus. This is not the Quran. It's not the Hadith. I'm sure that.
Yeah, as far as I recall, Paulus also talks about, the Jews are not. But anyway, of course, he will just pick whatever he wants and to make his bullshit, that, you shouldn't be a Zionist because apparently Zionist is just wicked evil. I guess we should all just become Mohammedans, right? And became part of the religion of the devil, or maybe not,
Christian apologists can defend these things, but why is it that we never hear these defenses? We are always on the defensive. Explain the verse of the sword, explain the so-called wife-beating verse, explain polygamy, explain the jizya, explain jihad, explain this, explain that. We're always on the back foot. So I think we need to rethink our strategic engagement, the public discourse. I mean, I've been answering the jihad question for over 20 years. If people don't know what jihad is by now, then God help them, right?
Right.
So now we have a few questions, right? It's time for us to ask a few questions. Romans 6 and Hebrews 10, Paul says that Jesus' sacrifice for sin was the be-all, end-all sacrifice. So Jesus is the ultimate temple, the ultimate high priest, and the ultimate sacrifice. This is New Testament Christianity. Yet Christian Zionists fully support the third temple, where both the priests and sin sacrifices will return one day, according to Jude.
The thing is, in regards to the Jews getting back to their homeland, and you can actually go there, it makes the Bible so much more alive. You can get experiences in regards to the Jews by going there. And of course, all the things that they dig up from the earth, supporting the Bible. And of course, that we can also see that, Israelites were around in that part of area. And again, when you see the Mohammedans in Israel being, asked about these things, it's just like, I didn't see anything. Oh, the Jews have never been, and it's like they just speak out of two sides of their mouth, they clearly have the spirit of error in them, and they will do everything they can to just, because they're not standing in the light, they're standing in darkness. Anyway, so when I'm a Zionist, I support the claim that this is Jewish land. Of course, it is Jewish land. It's Israel. Of course, I stand with the Jews in regards to that. It's not, you want to say that this is Arab land, Arab land, that this is your land, Arab land. Well, the Arabs from, Saudi Arabia, And when the one from Gaza says that 50% of us is from Egypt and the other 50% are from Saudi Arabia, because he's whining to these two countries that they're not helping them more in Gaza. So where are they coming from? Are they coming from? Oh, no, they're coming from, Egypt and Saudi Arabia. So just give me a break with the bullshit, You Mohammedans are stinking, filthy liars and deceivers, and it's not your land. And if you continue to curse the Jews, the curses will fall on yourself. As we can see, it goes very, very good for you guys, right? You Mohammedans, right? Every time you curse the Jews and steer up things and all that, it goes just wonderful for you guys, right? Or something. Or maybe not. Maybe it doesn't actually go so good. Anyway, I see here. Let's continue with this bullshit, but it's terrible, to listen to.
Jewish Messianism. How can the followers of the New Testament support this and call themselves Bible-believing Christians? They can't. Christian Zionism is indefensible from a biblical perspective.
Oh, and how is it this defensible? How many prophecies is there in this book in regards of the Jews, in regards of Israel for the end time? Huh? How many? Huh? Bullshit. You can bullshit around as much as you want and all that, but you people either don't read the Bible or have a I can't even say it, connective disconnect or something like that. What's it called? Connective. I can't remember how the word is, but anyway, you have something wrong up there, or maybe you have a spiritual problem. Maybe you have the spirit of error in you. Just incredible. So, you have Satanists all around the world in many different flavors who hate the Jews. I do wonder why they do hate the Jews. And then I became a Christian, and I found out, wait a minute, and I became a Zionist. But I know that lots of people around the world love hating the Jews and say that this is not your land and being against the Jews and all that. Like, hey, how much history in this book is actually about the Jews and that land, that piece of land? Where's all the history in this Bible actually? Where was Jesus when he was around? Oh, yeah, in the Jewish homeland. Now, of course, the Romans was around at that point, but yeah.
So we need to ask a Christian Zionist, are the Jews who wrote the Talmud still chosen and beloved by God? Are the Jews that wrote the Talmud still the apple of God's eye who cursed and slandered Jesus and his mother in the Talmud? And I might have read.
Yeah, you just continue to curse the Jews, and you will find out how that works out, okay? You will find out how that works around in regards to cursing the Jews and doing evil against the Jews and all that, and you just find out yourself how that works out. You will see the result, you know. See how that goes, you know. Stupidity.
Referenced this last time as well, a book by Peter Schaeffer, published by Princeton University, Jesus and the Talmud, where we're told what the Talmud says about Jesus and Mary. Of course, we have this famous.
Can I just interrupt here? That was very rude, but this is the book. I do actually recommend it quite strongly. Jesus in the Talmud by Peter Schaeffer that you're recommending. It's an excellent book. Highly, some excellent critical reviews on the back.
Yeah, of course. Do the Jews have issues with Jesus? Absolutely. You know, but you know, the nice things with the Jews are actually that they're kind of straightforward in regards of it, whereas the Mohammedans are just slick bullshitters. You know, deceiving. You know, saying, "Oh, we believe in Jesus." No, you don't. Whereas the Jews are saying, "No. We don't believe that Jesus is God." You know. Whereas the Mohammedans are more slick. Oh yeah, we believe in Jesus, but they don't. So yeah, of course the Jews have their issues with Jesus and have said a lot of bad things in regards to Jesus, and that's very sad, you know. But anyway, we have a growing, like we have 40,000 Christian Jews, and of course that will continue to grow. So that's a nice thing to actually see. While the Jews are returning, their eyes are also opening to that Jesus is actually their Messiah. So, and God in the flesh. So this is an amazing thing to see, you know, that this is happening. But the Mohammedans, they say they believe in Jesus, but they don't. They can say it over and over and over again, and they are lying bullshitters, you know. It's just filthy, stinking bullshitters. And I'm just, a little tired of it. I'm only getting older, and, you never know when you're going to die. And I'm so sick of this bullshit and these soft things and all that. You Mohammedans, you stinking, filthy Satanists, do not believe in Jesus. You can say it over and over and over again, but you don't. And just ask the Mohammedans, do you believe that Jesus is the Son of God? No. Do you believe he's God in the flesh? No. Okay. Do you believe he was executed on a tree? No. So he didn't die for the sins of the world? No. Oh. So he wasn't resurrected from the dead 3 days later, showing that he conquered death? No. Oh. Oh my. Okay. But you believe in Jesus? Oh, yeah. We believe in Jesus. It's just idiocy, you know. It's just stinking, filthy bullshit, you know. But yeah, you just took away the most pinnacle things in regards of Jesus' teaching and what he was pointing to, and the importance, the most absolute, most important things of Jesus, and you took it away. You made your own bullshit version of the devil. And you have, if you're going to take the Mohammedan number, 2 billion bullshitters in the world following a stinking, filthy, false prophet known as Muhammad. Yeah.
Throughout the Talmud, the founding document of Rabbinic Judaism, we find quite a few references.
Actually, that might be a pretty interesting book nonetheless. But sure, do the Jews have, things that are bad against Jesus? Absolutely. They have because they rejected Jesus, But it's, again, this is still their homeland. It doesn't take away that this is still, this is Jewish homeland. This is not Arab homeland. It should actually be kind of, wait a minute, these Arabs are saying and proclaiming that this is their land. Arabs. Should ding 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 ding. Should survive. Arabs, let's see here. Arabs, where Arabs coming from? Oh, Saudi Arabia. Oh yeah. Yeah, not in regards of Israel. Oh, how did you Arabs think and come up with that this is your land, huh? Like Spain? Hmm? You want to proclaim Spain as well as Mohammedan homeland because you conquered it in the past, huh? Yeah, bullshitters, stinking filthy religion,
To Jesus, and they are not flattering. And this matters.
No, the Jews have had their issues with Jesus for sure. They have a lot of bad things in regards of Jesus for sure. They don't, the religion that continued in regards to the Jews was a religion that, disconnected themselves away from the Messiah and did everything they could to attack Jesus. It was the Pharisees that survived, the non-believing Pharisees that survived. So, and that's what they still have today. Orthodox. How would you call it? Jewish Orthodoxy is pretty much the old Pharisaic religion, and they rejected Jesus. The side that rejected Jesus, and of course, have been attacking that for many centuries and all that. But that doesn't take away that God is still using the Jews, and there's still a lot of prophecies and about the Jews at the end time. And that's actually one of the problems, one of the things that reasons why the Jews actually rejected Jesus, because they were looking at the end time prophecies, and they kind of missed the mark. And Jesus was he was trying to get his disciples in regards of focusing on the prophecies that was to be fulfilled when he was there last time, not in regards to the future prophecies that is still future. There's still lots of prophecies about the future. So yeah, it's
for a bunch of reasons, but your point, particularly. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I know that Ben Shapiro was on Joe Rogan's podcast recently, and Joe Rogan said, "So you believe that Jesus was just a prophet or something?" And he said, "No, he was just a Jewish guy who tried to start a rebellion."
I should just take a screenshot, by the way, of the book.
And
now that we have
Joe Rogan said, "So you believe that Jesus was just a prophet or something?" And he said, "No, he was just a Jewish guy who tried to start a rebellion against the Romans and was killed."
There's also other sources from Jewish sources that would be interesting readings as well. I found a guy that Yeshu told Dode, but there's actually more than one of these documents. I read one of them. I had, I think I have one other as well somewhere, and there should be, as far as I know, more of these Toldot Yeshu. And the one that I read was pretty much more like a damage control document that actually verifies that Jesus did a lot of things and all that, but try to flip it around and it was sorcery and all that instead of actually from God and all that. In regards of, so they're not denying the miracles that he did, they're just making it, So of course, do the Jews have issues? The non-believing Jews have issues? Absolutely, But there's still a lot of prophecies in regards of the Jews and Israel and So why would you be against that?
Filled for his trouble.
That's
and when
right.
he said that, a lot of Muslims and Christians were offended. I mean, it's offensive. Jesus was just another failed sort of insurrectionist who died a criminal's death. But let me tell you this: what Shapiro, said was the G-rated version of what his Talmud says about Jesus. However, just for the sake of balancing my comments and being a bit fair here, and I'm not defending the Talmud, obviously, but we have to put its comments about Jesus into context. So the rabbis who wrote these things were reacting to the New Testament Jesus, okay, as well as the Jesus of Christian faith, not the historical Jesus of Nazareth.
What is interesting, there's that, that's like, the thing is, we have, you see historical, things that points to that Jesus, was God, was proclaiming himself God, and and the attacking him on those levels. So again, it's just it moves. So I guess he's now going to maybe say that no, they were not attacking the historical Jesus, because in their view, of course, the historical Jesus is not the Son of God, and is not God in the flesh, and he didn't die on a tree and all that. But again, the Jews are kind of, they understand, they understand that they execute, got Jesus executed on a tree. Now, of course, the Mohammedans will say, "Oh, no, the Jews just believe that they executed, Jesus, but it was actually someone else." But then you can go back to say, well, what did the Jews sentence Jesus to death for? What was so heinous, what was so evil, wicked, that they sentenced Jesus to death? Yeah, because of blasphemy. What is blasphemy again? Because he made himself, but because he, being a man, made himself God, So everything falls to pieces for this stinking, filthy religion of Mohammedanism. But I think he's trying to, say that the historical version, which in his views would be the Mohammedan version, this fake bullshit version of that. But let's see what he says.
Guys who wrote these things were reacting to the New Testament Jesus. Okay, as well.
So reacting to the New Testament Jesus. Oh, you mean the New Testament where we have the book of Matthew? That was actually the gospel that the Nazarenes used, which was the first Christians, by the way. Yeah, okay. And, for the most part, Jewish Christians. Then you have a secondary group, my brain apparently is not going so good these days. You have the Nazarenes, and you have the Ebionites. Ebionites was a secondary group coming later. Sadly, these bullshitters tend to flip these things around. The Nazarenes were the first group. They used the book of Matthew in the Hebrew version. They had it in Hebrew. So then you have the book of John, the Gospel of John, which, John was one of the 12 apostles, was in Asia Minor, nowadays Turkey and all that. Philip was in that area as well. That book collection. Now, of course, we do have Paulus. Of course, I have my issues with Paulus, but in regards of proclaiming Jesus as God wasn't his problem. The problem with Paul or Paulus or Shaul is that he's making so many holes in regards of the law of God. So you have pretty much two gospels in the New Testament. You have one that leads to law obedience, more law obedience, pulling you in that direction. And you have a gospel that is leading you, pulling you in the direction of lawlessness. And then the question is, which gospel in the name of Christ is actually the true one? Well, Jesus was always pulling you to more law obedience, So anyway, but that was pretty much the problem with Paulus, that he's making so many holes and making people hate the law and believe it's a curse and it was done away on the tree and all that. But anyway, but yeah, I guess I lost the. Oh yeah. So if you're talking about that book collection of the New Testament, or these documents in regards to the New Testament, and saying, oh yeah, this is, and then going to say that the Mohammedan version is the historical version, but that's probably what he's going to do.
Well as the Jesus of Christian faith, not the historical Jesus of Nazareth, not the real Isa alayhi salam. So this is
not the real one that we have, right? That was talked about Muhammad, coming 600 years after the event, that version, that version that came 600 years after the event. That's the real version. Not those first century version, not all those documents. Like you have the book of Matthew, that's one in regards to the gospel. Mark, Luke, John, that's four witnesses in regards of what was going on. 4 witnesses. And then you have the letters, and you have, it's like, give me a break. You have the history behind it. You have the prophecies in the Old Testament as well. And, but of course, when they try to get authority from the Bible, they will just turn around and piss on the Bible when it doesn't go with that bullshit religion of Mohammedanism.
Really important. The New Testament Jesus, the Jesus of Christian faith, claimed to be God. So this is absolute blasphemy.
Oh, did he actually? Oh, so he actually did proclaim himself God in the New Testament? Because a lot of Mohammedans will say, "Oh, Jesus never proclaimed himself God." That's like, let's listen to this again. That was interesting.
Not the historical Jesus of Nazareth, not the real Isa alayhi salam. So this is really important. The New Testament Jesus, the Jesus of Christian faith, claimed to be God.
Claimed to be God. Oh, that version found in the New Testament? Claim to be God, is that what you anyway, it doesn't matter in regards to these Mohammedans. They're full of bullshit, and they will say whatever they can to try to make you slip. It's stinking filthy evil. They clearly don't have the spirit of truth in them. But that's interesting. So Jesus, and by the way, the Christian version would be the first version in regards to claiming himself to be God. That New Testament version, kind of the first initial version of Jesus, okay? Not something coming 600 years after the event, Anyway, but of course they have to say this because they are following a false prophet. Let's just try to listen to this again. This version, that God version,
Jesus of Christian faith, not the historical Jesus of Nazareth, not the real Isa alayhi salam. So this is really important. The New Testament Jesus, the Jesus of Christian faith, claimed to be God.
Oh, not the New Testament Jesus, the version that claimed to be God? Oh, are you saying that there actually is information in the New Testament that proclaims Jesus as God? Like these bullshitters. But anyway, of course, this is the first version. That version is rubbish. That version falls apart on so many levels. And the audacity that they have to proclaim that bullshit is just extraordinary. You do wonder how many demons these people have in them, but anyway.
So this is absolute blasphemy from a Jewish perspective. It is the height of kufr. Numbers 23:19.
Yeah, you know why the Jews sentenced Jesus to death for? Oh yeah, blasphemy. Yeah, you see how it just all sorts of rubbish that they just because again, you can just take it back. Why did the Jews sentence Jesus to death? Because of blasphemy. Yeah, because of blasphemy. Because the Jews understood what Jesus was claiming, and they still understand to this very day. And then the Mohammedans are coming and say, no, they just, no. And the Jews just believed that they executed Jesus. They really didn't. And then, but what did they sentence him to death for? Oh, blasphemy, because you being a man made yourself God. And, on so many levels, the Jews understood what Jesus was claiming. And these bullshitters of Mohammedans just miss the mark, it just goes right over the head. When Jesus said, "Me and my Father are one," what did the Jews do? They took up stones. Why did they take up stones? Because of blasphemy. Because Jesus was putting himself right in the Shema, which Jews to this very day, whether believers or non-believers, know by heart. Shema Yisrael, Yehovah Eloheinu, Yehovah Echad. Now, what was Jesus saying? He was putting himself right there. Eloheinu, our gods, he was putting himself in there. Our gods, plural. Me and my Father are one. He was taking the Shema. He was saying, me and my Father are one. The Shema. He was just fixing himself into the Shema. And they understood that instantly, and they wanted to stone him for blasphemy. Because you being a man make yourself God. But you see, these Mohammedan bullshitters will miss that. And on so many other levels, they will miss it. And if they don't miss it, they will say, oh, it's corrupted, And of course, apparently this guy seems to have a suggestion that the New Testament Jesus is apparently that's a fake version, because he's proclaiming himself God. So apparently it seems like this guy understands that the New Testament version actually does proclaim that Jesus is God, So that's an interesting, but you can hear, again, it's the same thing when you talk to other bullshitters. They will take, they will try to do whatever they can to not, to anything else than the truth, Anyway, let's hear this again. It's just wonderful. Let's just listen to it.
Acting to the New Testament Jesus. okay, as well as the Jesus of Christian faith, not the historical Jesus of Nazareth, not the real Isa alayhi salam. So this is really important. The New Testament Jesus,
And again, the real version of Jesus would be the version that he believes in, which of course, like Muhammad came 600 years after the event. Okay, do I need to say anymore? 600 years after the event, Muhammad never walked with Jesus. He didn't talk to him. He did nothing. Yet you want to throw out all the sources from the first century because that's a fake version of Jesus. That's it's the Lulu bullshit land, and these Mohammedans are full of it. And it's very hard to kind of, because it's just it's so satanic all over the place. Anyway, let's
the Jesus of Christian faith, claimed to be God. So this is absolute blasphemy from a Jewish perspective. It is the height of kufr.
Exactly. That's kind of why they sentenced him to death for it. It's like, so again, but the Mohammedans, if you talk to the Mohammedans, they don't want to go back on that, because again, it ruins that bullshit. They don't want to go back to, hey, what was okay? So you don't believe that Jesus died on the tree, okay? You just believe that God deceived the Jews to believe that they did, right? Yeah, okay, makes zero sense. But anyway, but let's see, what did the Jews sentence Jesus to death for? Oh, for blasphemy. Exactly. You see, when they begin to try to tear down the truth, they get into so many issues, and if you actually know enough in regards of reading the Bible and understanding history and all, you can see it's just full of bullshit, and you might not be able to kind of, you might not be a good debater or something, or being good at refuting and what, but you can see they're full of bullshit. It's the same thing. Knowing something and teaching it to others can be two different things, my earthly father was very, very good at things, but he couldn't teach me things, in regards of whereas my grandmother, my grandmother, I guess, she was a teacher, and she was very, very good at but it wasn't because my father didn't know in regards of things. He just didn't have he wasn't very good at helping in regards of things, but he knew in regards of it. He was just not good at so it's the same thing here. You can smell the bullshit. I might not be able to kind of explain all the rubbish that they are puking out and all that, but it's just stinking filthy bullshit. So it's, again, the Satan's children are very good at what they do in regards to deceiving, lying, bullshitting around, and But anyway, let's hear this again. In regards to the real version of Jesus, that of course he's thinking about his Mohammedan bullshit version of Jesus, and then he's predicting the New Testament Christian version that is God. It's like incredible. Let's try that again. Because you have a lot of Mohammedans that will say, no, Jesus never said he was God, or the New Testament doesn't, or whatever, But anyway, they will say a lot of bullshit things, and of course it just keeps on. They're working for the devil, What do you expect,
We're reacting
Let's see.
to the New Testament Jesus.
Oh,
okay, as well as
the Jews are reacting to the New Testament Jesus.
the Jesus of Christian faith, not
the Christian of the Jesus of Christian faith. You mean the Christianity that is named after Christ, in regards to the Messiah? So they were named Christians because they were followers of Christ? Yeah, you mean those people? You mean those people who were called Christians because they were followers of Christ? You mean those people? Okay, those people.
Historical Jesus of Nazareth, not the real Isa alayhi salam. So this is really important.
Not the real version that we have, us Mohammedans,
The New Testament Jesus, the Jesus of Christian faith, claimed to be God. So this is
Did he claim to be God? Oh my. Yeah, that's actually the first version, And again, the Jews understood it. and they still understand it to this very day, although they reject it, but they do understand it. At least they're not dishonest like the Mohammedans in regards of it. Jesus, he proclaims himself God and all that. Of course, we don't believe that, um, but they understand it, and because they have that Jewish culture behind them and all that, they are much more, in regards to what Jesus is actually saying, whereas Gentiles might actually fly open. Like when Jesus says, "Me and my Father are one," it will fly over most of the people's heads. But you can see the Jews instantly understood it because they know the Shema. So so they instantly understood what Jesus was claiming to be and wanted to stone him for blasphemy. And when Jesus says, that he was, is, and is to come, he who was dead and is alive forevermore and all that, he's actually fixing the title of Jehovah. Now, the Jews understand Hayahoveh Yihiyeh to be Jehovah. And that's the title that Jesus is claiming in the book of Revelation. Now, this is just one data point out of so many. On so many layers, you can see that, what Jesus is. Like Jesus forgave sins. Well, who can forgive sin but God? There was like the Jews, like, what is this guy saying that he can forgive sins? Who can forgive sins but God? Yeah, exactly. Who can forgive sins but God? Exactly. Maybe because he's God in the flesh. The word that was with God was God and was made flesh in the Virgin and all that. Yeah. Oh my. It's just so sickening to listening to these Mohammedan bullshitters.
Absolute blasphemy from a Jewish perspective. It is the height of kufr.
Yeah.
Numbers 23:19. I always
exactly. And that's why the Jews sentenced Jesus to death. Because they understood what he was claiming to be. Why is it that so hard to get into your brain? Huh? Might have a spiritual problem like flies to a stinking dog turd, That's pretty much Mohammedanism. They like sucking all the depravity.
try to quote this at every podcast we do, Paul. Lo ish levi chazef. God is not a man that he should lie. Right? The New Testament Jesus, the Christian Jesus, committed blasphemy.
It's like the Jews use this as well. It's like full stop. God is not a man that he should lie. Full stop. You see, Joe, he's not a man. Well, let's try. What did the Jews sing? And of course, they just take it totally out of context. It's like take a little snippet out of it, and then boom, we'll just take this. Like, no, God is not a man that he should lie. It's not saying that he's not a man or couldn't be a man. It's saying that he's not like the rest of us that would lie. Like, because the Jews, the Israelis, are singing to the man of war after Jesus destroyed the Egyptian army and saved the Israelis and the mixed multitudes. Yeah. They are singing to Jehovah, the man of war, who would be that angel in the burning pillar. That would be Yeshua, the one that also stood in the burning bush talking to Moshe. That would be God. That would be Yeshua, the angel, the malach, the messenger. Yeah, who came down. Yes, Jehovah Anyway, the man of war. Like, oh, interesting. So Jehovah, the man of war. So they want to use this little thing, and without any context, they just stop, full stop. And again, the rabies do it as well. The non-believing rabies. Again, there's only one way to everlasting life, and that's through Jesus Christ. So all these other people who are attacking the truth, so they will use some of the same arguments sometimes as well when it suits them, Anyway, and this is one of those bullshit arguments.
So the Talmudic rabbis felt compelled to offer a sharp critique, but rather than using more academic and historical arguments, they opted for extremely depraved ad hominem attacks. So covenantal supersessionism was also the teachings of Christians throughout the centuries. John Chrysostom, Augustine of Hippo,
Yes.
John Calvin, Martin Luther, the early church fathers from the East and the West, as well as pioneers of the Protestant Reformation, all were advocates of replacement theology to a certain extent. Martin Luther, the spearhead of the Protestant Reformation, he wrote a treatise called "On the Jews and Their Lies." And
It's very, very interesting also when it's a thing, right? Everything against the Jews and all that, and they will point out that Martin Luther wrote this book and all that. Just be aware that in regards to the enemies of the Christian faith, the true Christian faith, the Jews were not even in the top two. That Martin Luther put Roman Catholicism on the first place against true Christianity, and Mohammedanism at number two. And yet they want to focus on the Jews, the Jews, the Jews, the Jews. Oh, he wrote a book he wrote a book released in 1945 against the Roman papacy and institution of the devil. Maybe we should talk about that book instead, huh? Anyway.
You will be shocked to your core what he says about the Jews. You won't believe your eyes. I mean, Luther lost his mind. Despite Luther being the main force of the Protestant,
Luther could be a little harsh in his talkings to get his point across. As kind of his to get the point across. He would be, more, he could be very harsh, in regards to things, to just get the understanding, over to the other side, so there was no question in regards to what he meant and all that. So, but yeah, anyway, but it's a typical thing that with, oh, see here, he wrote this book and all that. Yeah, well, he didn't even, the Jews were not even on the top two in regards to the enemies of Christianity. So, yeah, it's just
Protestant movement. Most Protestants are absolutely right to reject his hateful anti-Jewish rants. I mean, he was anti-Jewish. However, Christians.
Well, actually, I must say I haven't been able to further research things and all that and solidify totally in regards of it, because that was in his younger years. Clearly, somewhere he seems to actually be supporting of the Jews. So I'm not entirely sure in regards to things. There's kind of different opinions in regards of it. But what I do know that he didn't, the two arch enemies of Christianity was Roman Catholicism, and Mohammedanism. So he didn't even mention the Jews in regards of it. He had a little children's song from 1541, I think it was. Uns der des Papst und Türken Mord. Of course, the Turks would, of course, be the Mohammedans. And Papst in regards to the Pope and all that. That sentence was censored in multiple versions. I know it was censored in the English version, the Danish version, the German version, and all that. It was removed and something else was put in. And I guess they also took away the information about it in the top, but you can still go and find the originals in regards of it, talking about the two arch enemies of Christianity. And he didn't mention the Jews. Isn't that just interesting, So people that tries to blow up Martin Luther as this, anti-Semite, anti-Jewish, this and that, Yeah, well, again, people love hating the Jews. It's just a thing, So, yeah.
Zionist Christians are absolutely wrong to reject Luther's main contention that the Jews who disbelieved in Jesus as the Messiah are no longer chosen by God. Why are they wrong? Because this is the clear-cut teaching of the New Testament. So here's the bottom line. Zionism is kufr according to the New Testament and according to traditional Christianity. In the Gospel of John, chapter 8, Jesus tells...
Well, if the Bible was against Zionism, I wouldn't be a Zionist, okay? I actually became a Zionist because I read the Bible. Because before that, I was against the Jews because I was in the truth movement. And they have a lot of bullshit, of course, and one-sided against the Jews. But then you read the Bible and you wait a minute. And then you see another side of it. So they can say whatever they want and all that, but I became a Zionist by, reading the Bible. So yeah, so they can do whatever they want in regards to trying to say that this is not what it says and all that and whatnot. But that's how I became a Zionist, and not against the Jews, but for the Jews, because this is the Jewish homeland. Like, again, the Bible is a book that is. That's one of the I don't like traveling and all that, but I traveled to Israel. Why did I do that? Because this is the where the Bible is about. The land, this is Jewish land, and this is where things are happening. A lot of things are happening in regards to the Bible, history of the Bible. So I wanted to go there and experience, sniff up the the land in some sense, get some experience with the land and talk with Jews and all that, and it gave me some wonderful experiences for sure. It was yeah. So anyway,
The Jews. It says hoi iodaioi. So no longer scribes and Pharisees. He tells the Jews that if
oh yeah, and so I wanted to travel to Israel because many of the things in the Bible is happening in Israel. So it was, because I don't like really, traveling is not really me and all that overall. But yeah, so but I went to Israel 2 times. So actually, I should have been there many more times, but yeah, it's and why? Well, because this is where the things are happening in regards to the Bible. Interestingly enough, because Israel, it's Israel. It is Israel, and Jerusalem is the capital of the Jews, the Israel, the Israelis.
they were truly Abraham's seed, they would do the works of Abraham. In other words, the true seed of Abraham are those who follow Abraham. And then he says, no, you are children of your father, the devil, because you seek to kill me. Abraham did not do this. That's the New Testament Jesus. The Jews who disbelieve.
Sure, the Jews have their issues, but there are still also Jews that are actually messianic, and you still have prophecies about the end time, in regards of Jews or Israelis, and you have a growing number of it, of messianic Jews or Christian Jews, and it's wonderful to see. It's absolutely amazing, and it's a growing number. It's another huge blessing to the world. Besides, the many other blessings that we get from Israel being on the map again, like Hebrew. Speaking of Hebrew again, being able to go to Israel and experience Jews, talk to Jews, see the customs that was also there in the first century in regards of false traditions and all that. On so many, all the things that are being digged forward from the land, uh, you know while all the scoffers are attacking the Bible, it's nice to see all these things being digged forward from the earth in regards of Israel, finding supporting the Bible and the history and all that. So we also had the Dead Sea Scrolls coming forward. But yeah, we have lots of blessings that the Jews are back in the land. Huge amount of blessings coming forward by Israel being there again. And yeah, it's amazing.
Even Jesus are the seed of Satan, according to the New Testament Jesus. It was New Testament passages like this that prompted.
In regards of seeds of Satan, you have so many Satanists out in the world, but you want to blame the Jews for everything. It's like you have 2 billion whatever, 2 billion Mohammedans, 1.8, 2 billion whatever Mohammedans who are following the devil. You have Roman Catholics, 1.4 billion Satanists. You have the Hindus, the Buddhists, the atheists, and all that. You have lots of Satanists in the world, and you wanna blame the Jews for sure, there are Jews that are on the wrong side in regards to following the devil. You have 16 million Jews. Yet you have 2 billion Mohammedans, 1.4 billion Roman Catholics, and the rest of the Satanists in the world. And yet you want to, the Jews, the Jews, the Jews, the Jews. It's just incredible, because Mohammedans are children of the devil as well. If they reject Jesus, and they do, they're pissing on him. They made up their own fake version. They're the children of the devil. So, so of course, those who disbelieve Jesus in regards to the Jews are also following the devil. Not a surprise, but it's still the Jewish homeland. Doesn't take away that this is their land. And of course, again, that there's still a lot of prophecies about the Jews of the end times and all that. So, whatever.
The Talmudic rabbis to say what they said. Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, says the New Testament Jesus.
Sure.
This is a teaching of the New Testament. That's not the Quran or Hadith. I don't agree with this teaching. And I don't believe that the historical Jesus of Nazareth taught these things. But why is it that...
No, because you're following your own false fake version of Jesus. And it's interesting that, the Jews who were actually the closest to the events in regards to Jesus being a Jew, and also these things happening in Israel, in that area, although the Romans were there. But yeah, it's disbelieving and rejecting what the Jews are saying as just, and then just making up your own version. It's just rubbish. So anyway, in regards to the Mohammedans,
we almost never hear Christians defending these things. It's time for us to ask them, are they embarrassed? Are they afraid? Do they consider these teachings indefensible? Maybe Jesus was being hyperbolic here, but we don't hear anything from them. Do they consider these teachings, these statements anti-Semitic? If so, why do they continue to believe in them? We need to get clarity. We need to ask them.
Apparently we were ending. Maybe it was, I just wanted to stop it. Maybe it's something called context, like you have 16 million Jews, and yet you have 2 billion Mohammedans or so. You kind of want to have that. We could, of course, check it up in regards to how many Mohammedans is in the world and all that. Of course, the number keeps growing as more is being born and all that. But yeah, you can ask the Christians about these things for sure, But maybe it's because they are understanding things in more of a context, They understand that there might be some prophecies, a lot of future prophecies that still has yet to be fulfilled, with the Jews, and that the Jews or Israel would come back again. Yeah, maybe that's why, I don't know. Anyway, I guess it probably won't be satisfactory to many people in regards to the answers that have been given and all that. While listening to this bullshit, it's just terrible. Every single time listening to these Mohammedans, it's just rubbish. Oh yeah, why would you support the Jews? Yeah, let's just support the Arabs to that land, right? Yeah, just madness, right? Isn't it what you're calling yourself, Arabs? Arabs, right? Oh, this is our land. But are you Arabs? Oh yeah, we are Arabs. Oh, I thought Arabs was from Saudi Arabia, something like that. It's like not from Israel, It's just give me a break. I'm just sick and tired of the bullshit. That's all. And they can bullshit around. Why would the Christians support the Jews and all that? Well, because we understand that there's a lot of prophecies in regards to them in the future, and because we know that the history in the Bible is in regards to Israel, that piece of land that they have there is actually where things are happening in the collection of the books of the Bible. So, maybe that's why, Mm-hmm. And we, of course, see a lot of Satanists around that hates the Jews. It's a thing, people love hating the Jews, 6 million Jews, and they want to fault the Jews for everything, while they don't look at themselves, It's like 2 billion Mohammedans following the devil, 1.4 billion Roman papists following the devil, the Hindus following the devil, the Buddhists following the devil, the atheists following the devil, lots of people following the devil, billions of people following the devil, and yet you wanna and you want to point to the Jews and faulting them for everything, Oh, it's the Jews. It's the Jews. It's the Jews, right? Anyway, it just gets tedious, Tedious. Frivolous. That's the word. Frivolous. It's so frivolous to listen to many of these bullshitters. So anyway, I guess no one is going to see this anyway. I guess I can just talk whatever, and no one will see anything. So I guess it doesn't matter actually making these videos. I thought in the past that maybe it was like then I could get, sometimes talking makes you solidify things. But yeah, doesn't really matter because people just yeah. Um, so yeah, I guess we got through that. That was interesting, right? Not the real version of Jesus, right? You know, oh, it's the Christian version of Jesus. It's the New Testament Christian version of Jesus. That the Jews were attacking, and yeah, the first initial version of Jesus, and there was not the real version of Jesus, which they believe in, following a false prophet coming 600 years after the event. Like it's ridiculous. It's yeah. Now I forgot the other word. But yeah, I can't I can't understand how anyone could be a Mohammedan. But I guess this world is so wicked, evil, and utter full of bullshit. So people will like this so-called Christian, former Christian, apparently becoming a Mohammedan, and then saying that, oh, 1 John 5:7 and the Trinity, that's the only evidence for the Trinity in the New Testament. Did you say that you had been a Christian before? And and it was like these educated bullshitters, like just mushing up their brain cells or something like that. Just like defiling their just madness. Just because you're educated doesn't mean that you are actually, a lot of these educated people are just blind, absolutely blind, full of bullshit, full of rubbish, Oh, I'm a doctor in this and that and all that, and I can say a lot of words and this and that and all that. And yeah, but they're full of bullshit. Full of insanity, full of demons, Oh, then I began to research this and I found out blah, 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 blah. Yeah, good for you, Uh, so yeah, in regards to the Trinity, John chapter 14, 15, 16, and 17. If you don't understand it the first time, then read it multiple times, You probably won't understand it the first time you read it. So just take it, slowly and read it multiple times over and over and over and listen to what the master is saying, So that was interesting how he like I guess in regards to the New Testament version of Jesus in regards of being God. But again, you can just take it back. In regards to what he was sentenced to death for. Because he was sentenced to death for blasphemy. So, there you go. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous on so many levels in regards to the Mohammedan bullshit, It's so ridiculous, Wicked, stinking, filthy, evil bullshit, And it's so frivolous. Having no better word, it's frivolous. Oh well. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Guess I don't have much more to talk about in regards to that. We went through the video. Was this the one?
Now, at this point, I want to turn to the topic of Christian Zionism. And again, there will be a bit of repetition from our last podcast. So again, these two words, Christian Zionist, and his chosen seed, the Israelites. Therefore, if they don't bless and support the modern state.
Yeah, there we go. So, and again, both of these two people are Mohammedans. A major oxymoron. Yeah, well, And I guess they wouldn't be satisfied with like it's like they they pick the things and they want to have responding to these instead of just taking things in context. I hear it like this bullshitter again, a former Mohammedan. Jesus was not crucified. Oh really? Wasn't crucified? No, the Jews that just believes that they crucified him. It was like someone else actually. Oh really? Oh, interesting how that works out. And this guy also talks about the Trinity in regards to this only one line on all that.
In this video, I want to share with you.
Of course, he's one of these educated people. Like, look at all the books that he has around. He must have the truth, right? Because he has so many books. So many books.
Some fascinating
I
testimony.
guess all those books made him confused.
From the first century about how some Christians did not believe that Jesus, in fact, was crucified.
Oh, give me a break, Oh, there was some Christians that didn't believe he was, give me a break, Again, doing everything they can to do, whatever to sow doubt in people, How Bible scholars challenge my Christian faith, how I became a Mohammedan. There you go. And you can see like lots of, because people love bullshit, So if you have lots of bullshit, it will be pushed on the internet. If you have the truth, you won't, you will just be put in how the religion of Jesus was corrupted. Oh, let's see here. See if we find like the Trinity thing here. No. Was our Lord a Jew? Yes, he was. There's no question in regards of it. Like, why even question it? Is Jesus Jewish? Absolutely, he's a Jew. Like, give me a break. There's so much rubbish out there. You get tired of it. Like it's hard to believe how much bullshit there is in this world. How much dishonesty there is in this world. But yeah, there's a lot of it. Let's see if we can find the Trinity thing here that he made. Oh, it's like in regards to the Trinity, there's only this little verse, and that's not authentic and blah blah blah. So it's not true in regards to the Trinity. Yeah, there we go. How the Trinity verse got added to the Bible 3 years ago, how the Trinity verse got added to the Bible. Yeah. This guy is full of bullshit. Again, John chapter 14, 15, 16, and 17, you can hear Jesus explain. This is the most concentrated place in the Bible talking about it. So I wonder where could people get this idea from, Maybe just because they're reading the Bible and listening to the words of Jesus, does the Quran get the Trinity wrong? Well, you have the pagan satanic Trinity with the feminine divine. Of course, that's a satanic Trinity. Let's see here. The doctrine of the Trinity and the unity of God, a critique. I shouldn't waste my time on this bullshit, It's just rubbish. Yeah, okay. But yeah, if you want to listen to him in regards to this Trinity verse and all that, you can.
I want to tell you the fascinating story about when the Trinity verse was added to the Bible. And this is a very well documented historical fact.
Just if you actually take it out, you ruin the Greek, okay? If you put it in there, the Greek actually works. Just one of these interesting things, right? All the Waldensian Bibles had the 1 John 5:7 as well. Now, as far as my research goes, many years ago, researching the researchers and all that on both sides and all that, it absolutely should be there. I don't care if it was there or not in regards of either way, but I do care if it was there from the beginning or not, but I don't really, if it wasn't there, it doesn't change anything. If it was there, it doesn't matter in regards of because you have 4 whole chapters very concentrated on the John chapter 14, 15, 16, and 17. And you think that a one-liner taken out will change anything? You also have the last part of Matthew, go and baptize them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And who are they baptizing? In regards to the name, they are baptizing them in the name of Yeshua. So, um, so there you have the Trinity again: Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. You have it in regards of when Mary was made pregnant by the Holy Spirit, the Father sending the Son. In regards to the Word becoming flesh in the Virgin, there you have the Trinity as well. Um, you have the Trinity as well when he's baptized in water. The Father speaking from the heavens, the Holy Spirit coming down like a dove, and the Son being baptized. So there you have the tree as well. So it's all over the Bible in regards to the Trinity. There's plurals, that Jehovah is plural singular. Um, like a man and a woman is echad, is one flesh. But yet there are two, there are two, but one flesh and all that. Anyway, it's just so one single line won't change anything. If you take it, it's just because it's ingrained throughout the Bible, in all these books and all that. So how are you going to remove it's just by one line? You think that one line will remove the doctrine, or will remove the truth about it? Give me a break.
And for our guide, I want to quote from Whose Word Is It? The Story Behind Who Changed the New Testament and Why by Professor Bart Ehrman, who is an expert on textual criticism on biblical.
Yeah, bullshitter who rejected that Jesus is God, and incredible. How again, it's incredible how to see that you can see people growing up with Christianity and a lot of truth, and then they end up rejecting it and running with the devil, and ending up being used for the devil instead. Even if he has a lot of good stuff, it's like it's just it's madness.
Manuscripts. And he tells us this story, which I just want to share with you. Now, we need to go back in time to the 16th century, and we need to look at a guy called Erasmus. Erasmus was an enterprising scholar from Holland, a Dutch scholar, who produced the very first printed edition of the Greek New Testament. Now, the New Testament itself was written in Greek. In the centuries afterwards, it got translated into Latin, and the church tended to use the Latin translation.
Yeah, but you have other manuscripts that actually have it, like the 5 Waldensian Bibles, that all had it, and when you go look into it, you can see that there might be a reason why it was lost in a good amount of the Greek manuscripts, But again, when you take it out of the Greek manuscript, you ruin the Greek. You put it in there, and then it works. Maybe because it was there from the beginning, and was lost in some of the documents, So again, in regards to my research, I absolutely believe it was original there. But again, it doesn't change anything in regards of doctrine, because we have 4 whole chapters in regards to Jesus explaining it. So, and of course, John, coming from John, it wouldn't be a surprise that John would actually have fixed it, because he was also the one, fixing John, the Gospel of John. So, which again, the 4 books are really just the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John is actually just the 4 books about the very gospel in itself. So it's just explained from 4 different witnesses, So yeah. So why would it be surprising that John would have understood this and written it in his, one of his letters, by a small remark or one-liner, sum up of it, when he has it in his gospel in 4 whole chapters,
Erasmus produced a text in the original Greek, which he hoped would be a critical scholarly edition, and this is called the first published edition. Now, for the most part, Bart Ehrman says, he relied on a handful of late medieval manuscripts. In fact, on just one 12th century manuscript of the Gospels, and another also from the 12th century for the book of Acts.
And by the way, another thing that people also think that older is better. It's like you have like old manuscripts, and it doesn't have this and that and all that, and they will use that to remove, or tell the reader that this wasn't in the oldest manuscripts and all that. Just because something is oldest doesn't mean it's good. Oldest just means maybe it wasn't used and survived. Because if you actually use a Bible, it tends to wear out. It actually doesn't take that long to wear out a Bible or a book, apparently, when you use it a lot. But the thing is, if you have older sources that doesn't have it, and you have older sources of Christians actually talking about it and quoting, and the things that they say is not in the oldest manuscripts can actually be found in older, things that are older than that, in regards of Christians quoting it and talking about it back and forward. You see a problem, because the Christians couldn't quote the things if it wasn't in their Bibles. But the oldest manuscripts doesn't have, yeah, maybe that old, maybe these oldest manuscripts and all that, wasn't wasn't used, and thereby they survived. Maybe that's the reason why they survived for so long, because no one was using them, because they knew they were corrupted. So, but this is the way that these scholars and bullshitters are ruining the Bible by and trying to sow doubt about this and that and all that.
And the epistles. And as we shall see, he says, it's this edition that he produced of the Greek New Testament that was used by the later translators of the King James Bible a century later, and virtually all translations until the end of the 19th century. And he tells a very interesting story then about this Trinity verse. And he says, indeed, as it turns out,
there we go, with the 1 John 5:7.
These manuscripts that Erasmus used were not of the best quality. They were, after all, produced some 1100 years after the originals. For example, the main manuscript that Erasmus used for the Gospels contained both the story of the woman taken in adultery in John's Gospel and the last verses in...
I actually also looked into that because I heard about this as well. I don't see a problem with the adulterous, version of in regards of that either. So, but I was like, a little in regards of that also, because I heard of, and I did research it and all that. I don't really actually have a problem with the story of the adulterous woman. So, but yeah, anyway, I can't remember all the details about it, but yeah, don't see a problem with it.
Mark's Gospel, which tell the story of the resurrection in the earliest Gospel, passages that did not originally form part of the Gospels, as we learned in the preceding chapter. And he rightly showed.
As far as I recall, it came from, other sources in regards of maybe Hebrew sources in regards of this story in regards to the woman. I can't remember all the details about it, but I don't see it. Again, they will come up with everything to try to question the Bible and this and that and all that. I think it is a authentic story that actually happened, and don't have a problem with it.
The earliest manuscripts, the Codex Sinaiticus, for example.
There we go. Right. Yeah. From the Vatican,
not contain any resurrection appearances in the earliest gospel in the New Testament, the Gospel of Mark.
Again, maybe some of these books, these so-called oldest books, survived because they was not used, because the majority text that people knew to be real was the ones going around. Again, when you have this huge amount of majority text going around, and you have something that goes off, just a little thing going off, and then people want to base everything on that because it might be older, or they say it's older and all that. It's like, and then reject all the majority that everybody is using because they know it's madness. It's absolutely madness. But this is the thing that they will. It's also interesting that we kind of, these biblical Bible applications. I haven't seen one single Albigensian Bible. Um, I think it was one of the French Bibles that was based on the Waldensian Bibles, was translated from one of the Waldensian Bibles. But as far as I know, they are hiding these Waldensian Bibles away from us. At least we know that 5 survived at the time of the at the time of the Reformation. Though the Protestants had access to 5 Waldensian Bibles. So how many of those have survived to this very day is a good question. I know that at least, some, at least, they're hiding them away from us. And I'm not sure how many there is that have survived to this very day. But it's interesting that we have these Bible applications. As far as I know, none of them have these Waldensian Bibles. And they're focusing on these other things that that go older and blah blah blah, and yeah, it's just bullshit.
There was one key passage of script.
I don't know. My brain seems to be a little hard at work in regards, so it seems to have some problems. Oh well, you can only do so much.
That Erasmus's sources manuscripts did not contain, however. This is the account of 1 John 5, verse 7 and 8. And this is the first letter of John in the New Testament, chapter 5.
Yeah, but if you go to John 14, 15, 16, and 17, you can listen to the teaching of Christ directly from him, read, fixed by John the Apostle, Anyway.
Verses.
So even if you take that out, the doctrine of the Trinity is still there.
7 to 8, which scholars have called.
And of course, he's trying to say that if you this is the only, he says it someplace, that this is the only place that is evidence for the Trinity, which of course is rubbish.
Johannine comma, the Johannine comma. Johannine means John, and the comma is just these sentences. Now they are,
and it's kind of hard to believe that a former Christian would end up in all this rubbish, But as Jesus told, some seeds would be sown on this place, some seeds would be sown on another place, or some seeds would be sown on a third place, and then you have the fourth. You can go look at the parable of the sower and all that to get those details. Yeah, people fall off the wagon. They only last for a little while, and then yeah.
Are found in the manuscripts of the Latin Vulgate. So these are the later translations made into Latin, as I said before, but not in the vast majority of Greek manuscripts. A passage that has long been a favourite among Christian theologians, of course, since it's the only passage.
Oh yeah, in regards of quoting it as well. I think actually also was some sources actually where Christians were quoting it as well, as far as I recall, when you look backward as well. So again, if it wasn't there, how could they quote it? That's one of these things, as with other things where they say, oh, it wasn't there in the, it's not there in the oldest manuscripts and all that. But if Christians are quoting it, well, it was clearly there in the versions that they had available,
In the entire Bible that explicitly delineates the doctrine of the Trinity, and that there are 3 persons in the Godhead, but that these 3 all constitute just one God. So in the Vulgate, which is found in our King James Version, I just want to read the passage. So this is the King James Version, the Holy Bible. It says, "For there are 3 that bear witness in heaven, the Father, the Word, and the Holy Spirit, and these 3 are one. And these are 3 that bear witness on earth, the Spirit, the water, and the blood. And these 3 agree as one." So this is from the King James Version. And Bart Ehrman says this is a mysterious passage, but unequivocal.
Oh, I also forgot to say that the closer the Jews are getting to things, the more people actually can see these things in action as well. So what was, that gives us more data points overall in regards of the Bible and what was going on in the first century. We get more details when the Jews are getting closer and closer to things in regards to the temple and things of that nature. So on so many levels, to have the Jews back in the land is a huge, gigantic blessing to the whole world. Again, Hebrew being spoken, things being found, supporting the Bible. And it's nearly like I remember, like when I was following up on it, it was nearly a daily thing that a new thing was found in Israel. It's like one after another, after another, after another. The Shiloh pool is being digged up. I'm not sure how far they are now, but they started. They started not this last. They started a long time ago on this thing, and I'm not sure if they are finished with it and all that. But like a lot, I did a biblical place in regards to Shiloh pool and all that, and you have other places, biblical places that is, dig forward and found and all that, and just it's a blessing on so many levels. You can go there and you can see these places and all that. It's absolutely amazing. It's a great blessing to have the Jews back in the land. So yeah, it's anyway.
In its support of the traditional teachings of the Church on the triune God who is one. Without this verse, the doctrine of the Trinity must be inferred from a range of passages combined together to show that Christ is God, as is the Spirit.
Yeah, and as far as I remember, this guy that he's reading from, Nabil was talking about having him as a teacher and all that, and Nabil pointing out something, and then he would respond with, that doesn't make any sense. That would mean that Jesus is God. And Nabil is like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It would mean that Jesus is claiming to be God, and he is God. But that didn't make any sense in regards of, but of course, it's just non-believers will jump, this and that and all that, and it's, it's they just can't, solid stand on they will move whatever they need to try to slide around, slick around, spit off their snake oil nonsense and all that.
And the Father, and that there is nonetheless only one God. This passage, in contrast, states the doctrine directly and succinctly. But Erasmus did not find it in his Greek manuscripts. Now, this is the point. He used the best manuscripts that he had around in his city, which were actually not very good manuscripts by our standards today. The Greek manuscripts that he read simply said, there are three that bear witness, the Spirit, the water, and the blood, and these three are one. So where did the Father, the Word, and the Spirit go? They were not in Erasmus's primary manuscript or in any of the others that he consulted, and so naturally he left them out of his first edition of the Greek text, as a good scholar would do, because there's no evidence that this verse is in the Greek manuscripts. More than anything else, it was this leaving out of this verse that outraged Christian theologians of his day, who accused Erasmus of tampering with the text in an attempt to eliminate the doctrine of the Trinity and to devalue its corollary, the doctrine of the full divinity of Christ. As the story goes, Erasmus, possibly in an unguarded moment, agreed that he would insert the verse in a future edition of his Greek New Testament on one condition, that his opponents produce a Greek manuscript in which the verse could be found. Finding it in Latin manuscripts was not enough. There were late medieval manuscripts that had it. And so
of course the 5 manuscripts from the Waldenses as well, So that's the thing, sometimes you have manuscripts from, in regards of and missing something in regards of one kind of. Then you have some other, in regards to another language, that can help you to sort that out. You have the Aramaic manuscripts of the New Testament, 22 of the books, and then you can find out where the name of God is, whereas the Greeks have taken it out, like the Jews tend to do today. When they read the name of God, they will replace it with Adonai or Hashem instead of actually reading what it actually is. Now, the Jewish manuscripts mostly do have the name of God around 6,800 times in the Tanakh, but there are places where they actually took it out, physically in the text. But anyway, the Greek manuscripts ended up, removing the name of God as well, and of course you will then need to, like, if you have the Greek manuscripts of the Old Testament, the old the Tanakh, wow, my brain is just anyway, if you have and you don't have the name there, well, then you go to the Hebrew and see where the names are, and you can, with that, you can use the Hebrew to find out where the names are in regards of Yehovah. And so if you made a translation from the Greek, you could still, insert the names by using the Hebrew manuscripts to find out where the names actually is. So it's kind of, you can use multiple sources to, and if there's some manuscripts that kind of miss something, you can usually find it in some, again, it's just investigating things. And if you're honest about it, it's, it's just, anyway.
Greek manuscript was produced. In fact, it was produced for the occasion. It appears that someone copied out the Greek text of the epistles, and when he came to the passage in question, he translated the Latin text into Greek, giving the Johannine comma in its familiar, theologically useful form. The manuscript provided to Erasmus, in other words, was a 16th century production, made to order. So Erasmus demanded, I want to see this in a Greek manuscript. His opponents say, okay, and they went away and they made one, literally made one up in the 16th century, in Erasmus's day, wrote it out, included the verse, the Johannine comma about the Trinity, stuck it in, and gave it to him. Say, there you are, there's your Greek manuscript. Go ahead and produce your good critical scholarly text. Despite his misgivings, Erasmus was true to his word and included the Johannine comma, this is the Trinity verse, in his next edition and in all his subsequent editions. These editions, as I've already noted, became the basis for the editions of the Greek New Testament that were later reproduced time and time again by translators over the centuries. These editions provided the form of the text that the translators of the King James Bible eventually used. And so familiar passages to readers of the English Bible, from the King James in 1611 onward, up to modern editions in the 20th century, include the woman taken in adultery, the last 12 verses of Mark, which mention the resurrection, and the Johannine comma, even though none of these passages can be found in the oldest and superior Greek New Testament manuscripts. They entered into the English stream of consciousness merely by a chance of history, based on manuscripts that Erasmus happened to have handy to him, and one that was manufactured for his benefit. The various Greek editions of the 16th and 17th century were so much alike that eventually printers could claim that they were the text that was universally accepted by all scholars and readers of the Greek New Testament, as indeed they were, since there were no competitors. The most quoted claim is found in an edition produced in 1633 by Abraham and Bonaventure Elzea, who were uncle and nephew, in which they told their readers, in words that have become famous since among scholars, that you now have the text that is received by all, in which we have given nothing changed or corrupted. The phrasing of this line, especially the words text that is received by all, provides us with the common phrase textus receptus, or abbreviated as TR. This is what is known as today the Textus Receptus, a term used by textual critics to refer to that form of the Greek text that is based not on the oldest or the best manuscripts, but on the form of the text published by Erasmus and handed down to printers for more than 300 years, until textual scholars recently began insisting that the Greek New Testament should be based on scientific principles, based on our oldest and best manuscripts, not simply reprinted again and again according to custom. It was the inferior textual form of the Textus Receptus that stood at the base of the earliest English translations, including the King James Bible and other editions until the end of the 19th century. So there we have the story of the Textus Receptus, which is still venerated by fundamentalist Christians, especially in the United States. The King James Version only movement say this is the pure, unadulterated Word of God. But of course, it's based on late medieval manuscripts. We have manuscripts now that go back even to the 4th century AD, the Codex Sinaiticus famously, which of course does not have the Johannine comment, doesn't have the story of the woman caught in adultery. It doesn't have now that go back even to the 4th century AD, the Codex Sinaiticus famously, which of course does not have.
Like, isn't that the Vatican thing, you know? As far as I recall, that this story, this spurious story in regards of its findings and all that. Anyway. Yep.
The Johannine comment doesn't have the story of the woman caught in adultery. It doesn't have the resurrection appearances in the earliest gospel. And there's a whole bunch of other things which I won't go into as well. So this is the story of how the famous Trinity verse, which openly, explicitly states that God is 3 persons in one, is in fact a verse, a fake verse, added in later by scribes. It was probably a marginal note or an annotation at the bottom, and it got incorporated into the text. That's one theory anyway. But it's not part of the original Greek manuscript. And this is very difficult for Christians to accept, because it means their most solid witness for the Trinity has been taken away. And they have to now...
Oh, really? Yeah. Most solid evidence for the Trinity when you have John chapter 14, 15, 16, and 17, right? Yeah.
Construct the doctrine out of a complicated, like a Christmas tree, all mangled up together to try and create this doctrine out of different texts in different places. And
I don't know if this is the video or not, but there was at least one place where he's just like, it's the only evidence that they have for the, but it sounds more a little softness here. So anyway.
That is very unpersuasive to most people, certainly to me anyway. But even though most modern translations now do not contain the text, the Johannine comma I mean, for example, in my preferred version, the New Revised Standard Version does not have the Trinity verse, because this is a good critical edition. The new King James Version, this is it here. So they know the facts, but they still have the verse in it. It's still in it. I've highlighted it in yellow. For these are 3 that bear witness in heaven, the Father, the Word, and the Holy Spirit, and these 3 are one. Even though we know that it's not in any of the early Greek manuscripts, and it wasn't there in the original Bible, they still...
Yeah, maybe they know some of the other research, in regards of it, and understand that, yeah, if you actually take it out, you ruin the Greek, And you have 5 Waldensian Bibles that have it, as well. Kind of, gives it a little, and then you also have some quotations going far further back in regards of it actually also quoting it. So, and of course, how would they be able to quote it if it wasn't there in those old manuscripts and all that? So,
insist on keeping it in the Bible. Some people may say that this is a fraud and it lacks integrity, that they're still trying to pass this off as God's word when they know full well it's not. So I found that a very interesting story. I hope you found it interesting too. Till next time.
Yeah, I don't know if it was another video that he made, because he was much more as far as I recall, he was much more like, this is the only evidence that they have for the Trinity and all that. So I'm not sure if he made another video. I guess it's some time since I was looking into it. Like, this is like made 3 years ago. So anyway, I guess we had enough. I'll take a break. Anyway, may Jehovah be with you, and Yeshua most precious Pope.